This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Good morning and happy Independence Day. I'm Justin Warmoth. Florida high school students will now have to take CPR training to graduate under a new bill recently signed by Governor DeSantis. The law requires school districts to provide training in CPR as well as basic first aid for students in 9th and 11th grades, a move advocates say will save lives since cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death on campus. This morning, Tony Renta, the CEO and founder of On-Call Training Solutions, is here to discuss the bill and show us the proper CPR technique. And Tony, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's first off talk about what you do and the training that you provide people in Central Florida.
Absolutely. So my company is On-Call Training Solutions, and we provide CPR training, some more advanced classes within the hospital setting as well. But we do a great deal of basic CPR for lay rescuer individuals to try and kind of raise that awareness of what to do. So a lot of it stems with babysitters, lifeguards, again, those in the non-medical and pre-hospital setting, and then a good deal of the individuals that are within the hospital setting as well. So the healthcare professionals that maintain certain certifications specific to pediatric support, cardiac support, things of that nature is what we really work on.
And your background before that, you were a firefighter.
I was. I got into the fire service early, about 2004, and did that for quite a few years. So I started as an EMT actually in 2003 with a particular company, and then stayed within the fire service, and I left in 2017 at the rank of battalion chief paramedic to just move more towards the educational side and kind of like a second step in my career.
Probably just dealing with the day-to-day things that you did as a firefighter, you realized that so few people knew basic CPR and how to perform that and what to do in a setting like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and still to this day, we have quite a few people and many of the individuals that are still pre-hospital paramedics and those on the front lines, they are running calls on a regular basis, and they're arriving to these locations where in fact there is no one that is rendering any type of aid. And it's just, it's not that they don't want to do the right thing, it's just they don't know the skills, and because they don't know the skills, there's risk with any type of aspects pertaining to actually doing it correctly and making sure that it's effective, so they just don't do anything. So we run a lot of calls, in my career, and as they do continue now with those that are still working as first responders, they run a lot of calls where no one is really effectively rendering any care for those individuals when they go into potentially cardiac arrest or just a standard medical situation.
And this morning we are going to show the folks at home what you can do if you run into a situation like that. That's coming up. But I do want to talk about your reaction when the Florida legislature passed this bill requiring students in high school to learn basic first aid and CPR training while in school before they graduate.
Yeah, I mean, it's that was paramount for the state of Florida, and hopefully, it continues to move through into other states, and I believe some have already done that. But my initial reaction was that it was success, especially to the individuals that pushed that bill altogether throughout the state. It was based on a situation that required CPR training, or those individuals that were CPR trained to spring into action. Right. And that's how it kind of got pushed up the ladder, so to speak. But it's huge that you have our youth that are going to be in school and getting an opportunity to learn some household skills that are very imperative. I mean, to the success of those around them. I mean, you really never know what you could potentially be faced with, and you just don't know if you're going to have that opportunity. But it's obviously better suited to be prepared in some sort of fashion than to have no idea what to do. So you're going to have high school students that are now going to be trained, I believe, in 9th grade and in 11th grade. These are 2-year certifications and 2-year knowledge-based information that they're going to be able to take with them beyond that. And hopefully it implores them that when it's no longer a requirement, so to speak, that they'll want to continue to understand and know the skills to perform it at any walks of life, even beyond their high school years. It
probably took so long for something like this to happen because there's just always this thought that when you have to perform CPR, it was mouth to mouth. The recommendations changed over time.
Yes.
Talk about the importance of those recommendations changing and how better suited the hands-on approach is for someone who witnesses something out in public from someone that they don't know too.
Yeah, absolutely. So for many years, the focus point was that you would do mouth to mouth, right? For someone who's not in the medical field, what would you see on TV? You would see, someone do mouth to mouth, someone do hands-on CPR. And ultimately, what it came down to was many people associated the two to essentially be married together. And if I wasn't willing to do mouth to mouth, well, then I know I also can't do hands-on CPR. And so over time, the standards kind of evolved to say, look, research has shown that if you simply begin doing doing hands-only CPR, you have the opportunity to move oxygen-rich blood throughout the body and at least try to avoid a brain injury. And one of the main focal points of CPR as a whole is we're trying to avoid a brain injury. We don't want a lack in what we call anoxia. We don't want that to happen to where that brain has absolutely no oxygen-rich blood getting to it, and after so many minutes, it specifically becomes irreversible. So the mentality was, as the research was released from some of these governing bodies, was that if you could actually approach a patient and recognize that they were potentially in cardiac arrest, you didn't have a necessity to give them any breaths, so as long as you initiated help to be on its way rather quickly and began doing simple hands-on CPR, again, allowing for perfusion of that blood to be moved throughout the body. So that became the focal point.
Every minute matters as well. I mean, it's so critical to jump into action A and to be just, you are bridging the gap until paramedics can arrive. And so often we hear these stories about A, the good in CPR, and B, the lack of CPR knowledge, whether someone just could not or no one in the area knew what to do. I mean, the stats are crazy. 1 in 5 people who die from cardiac arrest could have been saved if someone performed CPR. The other one is when someone goes into cardiac arrest, the chance of survival goes down by 10% with every minute that goes by. That's why it's so critical to have a wide range. The most people that you can think of know CPR, so if you run in that situation, you can have someone potentially save your life, or you can save a life yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the way that some of this training goes through, with the legislature, it appears that it'll be a 1-hour training block that they'll receive. That's more than ample time to teach someone how to appropriately place their hands on a patient's chest and provide adequate depth of compressions and at a rate that would be a focal point for that patient and that would be successful for them. But when you do have ultimately groups of individuals that are potentially there at a restaurant, at a store, within your own means of being with family, at group celebrations or things of that nature, you have people that are there. If someone, if we can get more like 1 in every 2 people to be potentially trained, then the success outcomes for these individuals are going to be astronomical. And again, it's just having basic knowledge. You're not trying to create an exposure on yourself, because in anything, in all medical professions, one of the big things that we focus on is where I'm going to potentially be performing something. Is it safe? Is it safe for me to be there? Is it safe for the patient? And is it safe for other individuals to help me? But if you have a potential collapse at a restaurant, at a store, at a mall, if you've got a handful of individuals that are willing to spring into action and do simplistic hands-on CPR, you're giving a wide variety of individuals the opportunity to potentially live. And with that concept that it drops 10%, the rule of thumb is that at about 6 minutes, it's irreversible brain damage. So if we can simply get onto that person and begin doing hands-on CPR until EMS arrives and let EMS do what they do, which is the advanced interventions, and get them into the hospital setting where they can get even further advanced interventions, then the potential of out-of-hospital cardiac arrest ending in a positive manner with someone who actually walks out of the doors out of the hospital a few days later is greatly higher when we have more people that know what to do and are willing to do it.
Coming up, a crash course on performing CPR, the steps you need to take to save someone's life, right after this. Stay with us.
This is The Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
Welcome back. This morning, we're breaking down the new Florida law that requires school districts to provide basic first aid and CPR training for high school students. Get this, 1 in 5 people who die of sudden cardiac arrest could have been saved if someone performed CPR. And that's why we're taking you through the correct steps if you witness someone collapse.
So if someone does go into cardiac arrest, one of the big issues that they have is that a lot of times we are inclined to approach a patient immediately. If you are alone or if there are individuals around you, we've got to initiate help being on the way. We don't want to get so ingrained into what we're doing with the patient that we forget to actually initiate the EMS response that's needed. And that goes for a public location, that goes for a personal location. We've got to get EMS on the way so that whatever interventions we do can be taken over by more advanced interventions when they arrive. And again, it completes that circle between pre-hospital or lay rescuer to pre-hospital treatment to in-hospital. So if we recognize that somebody is potentially in a collapsed situation patient. Either we witness it or we are walking up to it. Step number one is call for help. Call for someone to come assist you with it. In many cases, we always have a phone nearby.
Yeah.
Go ahead and call 911 and put the patient or the dispatch on speakerphone. Now, there are instances where you may have been trained and you freeze. That's what dispatch is there for. They're going to coach you through the necessity of what you have to do and assist you with that CPR immediately. The second step is to approach that patient. If you're confident in checking pulses, there's two almost aspects of it, depending on whether it's a community CPR aspect or something that we describe as a heart saver course. And I'll go with the heart saver aspect of it, is we would approach the patient and we would check a pulse, checking a carotid pulse, which generally would take us about 5 to 10 seconds to adequately check. If we don't have an actual pulse on the patient, the next step would be that this patient does indeed require CPR compressions because we don't have a pulse present. And in that instance, we would want to place our body above them, and we use the landmarks of the sternum, and we're thinking we have the entire sternum bone, and we want to work on the lower half of the bone. So we would actually have placement, whether left or right. It's ultimately, you can use either side, and we want to get our body above the patient. We don't want to do more of an arm style because ultimately you'll just fatigue.
Right.
If you use your body weight to your advantage, and of course you'd likely be on the ground, you can easily use body weight and bring yourself onto the patient and continue doing compressions. Now you can hear this click, and there's illumination on this mannequin as well to show me that I'm accomplishing 100 to 120 compressions per minute, and that I am completing a depth of at least 2 inches, in particular allowing the chest to come all the way up before I push back down, which is allowing blood flow to get into the heart, and then me to perfuse that blood flow, again, the important aspect of getting it up to the brain.
You know, as someone who, I have never had to do this, but I can imagine that a lot is going through your brain and adrenaline is running high.
Oh, yeah.
So the compressions, while they might feel like you're going at an adequate pace or the recommended pace, is there something that can help you remember the pace? Whether I know that there's a song. Is that what you teach as well?
It absolutely does. So you'll be able to or see this, and there's illumination. But if I actually go off of the "Staying Alive," which is what the main song is again as I'm sized. If I begin staying alive, staying alive. And as you can see, you know, obviously the camera wouldn't be able to, but there are 2 green lights illuminated. The first green light indicates that I'm going a 2-inch depth, allowing for full chest recoil.
Yeah.
The second light indicates that I'm accomplishing the 100 to 120 compressions per minute. Now, of course, in being trained and in instructing this, then I can recognize the correct rate. But again, you can go along with the song in your mind to do that. The end result is, and there's a statement that's usually on most documentation, some type of CPR, even bad CPR, is better than no CPR.
Got it.
And that's the end result, is we're recognizing, look, it's going to be 160 seconds. That means you're going to have to go relatively fast.
Yeah, and we were talking, it's so important to, once you begin performing CPR, to continue to do so, even until, I mean, even if help arrives, they still need to set up, get everything ready, continue to do, if you're doing it right, they'll tell you probably.
Yep.
And just keep it going. Because no breaks or no switching it up or someone call, it's so important to keep that rhythm, that
Absolutely,
pace.
you're 100% correct. And many of the people that I've worked with in the fire department and those that are still working right now, they would be able to attest. If you walk in and someone is doing great CPR, right? Ultimately, my first inclination is we don't walk in with equipment ready to go. We've got to get the equipment set up. So if you're doing great CPR, step number 1 is I'm going to let you continue to do it while we get set up. And that's important to keep in mind, is because, again, you are providing that initial. All the CPR, from physician to nursing to paramedics to lay rescuers, every person who learns CPR learns to push down 2 inches on an adult to allow full chest recoil, providing 100 to 120 compressions a minute. And the goal is to never come off that patient's chest for more than 10 seconds. That's the identical thing you would be doing. That's the identical thing I would do as a paramedic. That's what I instruct. And that's what anyone in a healthcare system would be doing. So if you are doing it, never stop, continue to do it until someone, we always say that ultimately your level or above should be taking over the treatment that you're doing. So you're going to do it until someone comes in that is able to do more, again,
to the next
shows
step,
up and takes it to that next level of treatment.
All right, so I think, how does someone know to do this? Like, if someone has collapsed, is it automatic perform CPR, or are there ways to check whether or not that's in fact what they need?
So again, from that heart saver aspect in which we are wanting to check that patient, we generally will check a carotid pulse. As the body fails, oxygen-rich blood's being drawn to the brain. So if you're going to be able to actually palpate a pulse, it is going to be a carotid pulse on the patient. Although I know, you might go for a run and you'll check a radial pulse. That's just not the preferential location to be able to check it.
So go to the neck.
Yep. So you want to go to the neck. There's two vessels that are actually running right alongside of the neck, and you'll be able to palpate a pulse there if it is adequate. And if that pulse is there and it's, again, adequate for you, there's not going to be a necessity to be able to begin doing CPR. But if you palpate and you generally cannot feel a pulse on the patient, it's also going to be associated with the fact that you'll likely see discoloration, maybe a little bluish tint. We call it a little more cyanosis to the patient, because again, without the heart pumping, we also know the lungs aren't open and closing for breathing as well. So we would be able to recognize, you don't really have to do much to recognize that the patient is not breathing, right? Across the board, from infants to adults, I can take a visual scan of the chest, and if I don't see chest rise, then I can make the assumption that the patient's not breathing.
The pressure, is there too much pressure? What are you trying to avoid? What are you feeling out as you deliver those compressions? What is too far?
Well, ultimately, you can cause traumatic damage to the actual patient. We've always had a saying that it's life over limb. So a few broken ribs in the process of doing CPR is going to be the collateral damage of actually getting resuscitation on that patient and bringing a pulse back.
Not something that you should necessarily think about as you're trying to save their life.
Absolutely. And so ultimately, keep in mind, you are using, for lack of better terms, you're using the sternum, the breastbone, and then obviously it's pancaked in between what we would describe as muscular and aspects that are above the spine, and then the entire breastbone. And so you have the heart that is positioned right below there. You are essentially trying to create a pancaked approach to where every single time you go down, you are actually creating that perfusion on them. Now, in essence, you don't want to be down here so deep that you feel like it's concaving the chest because there's so much force. It's easy to understand. They want you to do about 2-inch depth. They say a third the depth of the chest, but about a 2-inch depth is what you're trying to do. And of course, we don't have a measuring tape to be able to do that, but we recognize that ultimately we have to understand that doing this just isn't going to get the job done, because again, the goal is to, in essence, for lack of better terms, pancake that heart so that you can actually perfuse that blood.
And a big thank you to Tony Renta with On-Call Training Solutions for those life-saving tips. To read more about the bill requiring high schoolers to learn CPR before they graduate, just head to clickorlando.com. I'm Justin Wormuth. Have a happy and safe 4th of July.